Marvel Studios and Disney typically go out there and, like everybody in Hollywood, have to register productions and names related to those productions that hopefully can keep fans away. Now, since people try to put everything that Disney and Marvel register under a microscope and scrutinize it, we inevitably end up uncovering some details. Which brings us to something we've talked about before, this being Ionic Productions, which has now been confirmed to be a Marvel Studios project. First up, credit where credit is due. I do not believe that it was somebody else that discovered it, and I do believe that where I'm reading it from, it originally came from The Ronin, but nonetheless, I do believe that they were the original source of uncovering this and connecting all the dots and more or less connecting all the pieces together. But essentially, we've talked about this before. Marvel Studios trademarked a bunch of LLCs. Now, typically, when they do this, they're trying to, well, obviously hide things, but they're also coming up with code names and trying to line up projects that they're going to be shooting. This is how we found out about Black Widow, Loki, and Eternals way before they ever started production or were confirmed, because we found out about these LLCs and registrations that related to things that we could connect the dots to. One that's been puzzling many people was Ionic Productions LLC, which many people were trying to figure out what does it mean and does it at all connect to anything Marvel Studios. Recently, people have uncovered more interesting details. One, Nathan Fillion teasing some stuff over on Twitter where people were just like, well, you know, he's talking about Alpha Flight and stuff, so who really knows? But once people started to dig a little bit deeper into it, they realized that, once again, Nathan Fillion was at one point supposed to play Wonder Man. That was scrapped. But when it came to the behind-the-scenes footage relating to WandaVision, we saw Wonder Man was one of the things that was on the back wall, but blurred out. So people believe it could be connecting to that. Also, Ionic Productions could be alluding to characters like a Rogue, for example. But again, people are still trying to just take their best guess into what it could be, because it could be realistically a couple of things. And what's interesting about this is that this has been discovered after Jack Sheffer, the head writer and executive producer of WandaVision, signed that giant overall deal that would see her working on more Marvel Studios projects. So again, things are starting to line up here. And if we start looking back at the history, for example, Static Productions, in hindsight, was actually WandaVision's LLC. So people are now trying to connect the dots through this and trying to really figure out what does everything mean and what are some of these other things that they're working on and all these LLCs that have been registered, because there's still plenty of them that we don't really know. But the best guesses for this one are some sort of Rogue project or Wonder Man, so take a pick.